What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of If It's Everybody Else, It's You. As always, I am your host, Zach Cronin, and today we are going to be talking about the Lakers firing Darvin Ham, but we are also going to talk about the systemic issues that have plagued the Lakers ever since LeBron James came to Los Angeles. I'm not trying to imply that LeBron is the reason for this dysfunction. No, I'm going to pin some of this on the front office, management, and ownership. Before we address the history leading up to this season, let's go ahead and discuss this campaign that the Lakers just went through. They got embarrassed by the Denver Nuggets. They did not really have that great of a regular season in terms of performance, results. Even statistically, they were among the most mid teams in the league despite winning the in season title. However, it was almost as if there were two different iterations of the Lakers. There was the early season Lakers where they were just ass, and there was the late season Lakers where they were better, but still unlikely to make any deep run in the postseason. LeBron is getting older. Anthony Davis had stretches where he looked fucking fantastic. I will give him that. But overall, the roster composition of this team was a little strange. Rui Hachimura, fantastic for them. Jared Vanderbilt, when he was healthy, fantastic for them. Austin Reeves, fantastic for them. D'Angelo Russell, fantastic for them, not in the postseason. And I thought very highly of the trade that brought them Spencer Dinwiddie. I thought Spence was the kind of player that they needed, but unfortunately didn't see a lot of time in the postseason. And I don't think he would have made much of a difference anyway. Do not get it twisted. Darvin Ham was not good for the Lakers this season. This dude was a bad head coach. No scheme, no vibes either. Didn't even bring like any swag to the team. Was so blatant in his disregard for using timeouts. It felt almost like a human rights violation. The Lakers would get like a 14-2 train ran on them, and Darvin Ham would just be on the sideline with his arms crossed looking at LeBron. Like, LeBron is not going to take that fucking timeout. He's not the coach. That's not his responsibility. I don't think Darvin Ham was right for the Lakers. Even getting into how he got here, I don't think Frank Vogel should have been fired from his post. I believe that he was wrongfully scapegoated by this organization. I do also feel the need to touch on the fact that the Lakers postseason run, the run they had was the pain was compounded by the fact that this team wasn't really healthy. As much as I would love to just rail on Darvin Ham the entire video, I don't think that is appropriate. He, for example, was not liable for the injury that Jared Vanderbilt suffered that saw him not play a single minute in this postseason. He's also not responsible for D'Angelo Russell shooting a blistering 38.4% from the field and a striking 31.8% from three. He was also not responsible for Taurean Prince shooting 5 of 17 from three. The Lakers just did not perform well in the playoffs. I think that falls on the role players. LeBron and AD were spectacular, of course, but as we know, you need role players to win in the postseason. Now, with all of this out of the way, with all of the ragging on Darvin Ham out of the way, we need to look at how the Lakers arrived at this point. It's the summer of 2018. The LeBron James sweeps. It's the summer of 2018, and the LeBron James sweepstakes is in full effect. Every team wants to sign him, no shit. But with him leaving Cleveland, it felt as though him signing with the Lakers was almost preordained. We know everything, him having a house out there, his production company being out there. But if not for all that, just the history associated with the Lakers and how one of the greatest players of all time, arguably the greatest player of all time, going to play for arguably the greatest franchise of all time, just seemed too good of a storyline to pass up. So that's exactly what he did. Not only did the Lakers sign LeBron James, they also signed on Rob Pelinka. And over the time that these two have been in Los Angeles, there has been a considerable amount of roster turnover. There has also been a considerable amount of head coaching turnover. There have been 3 head coaches since Pelinka came to the Lakers. Luke Walton got fired. Frank Vogel, hired to replace him, fired. Darvin Ham, hired to replace Frank Vogel, and fired. There will now be a 4th head coach coming to join the James Lakers. Now, you could sit here and say that LeBron James is the problem. I think you're being mighty disingenuous if you do that. Say lay GM all you want. Ultimately, the final decision is made by Rob Pelinka and probably also Jeannie Buss and the rest of upper management. LeBron James and Anthony Davis undeniably have a say in who these head coaches are, but it's ultimately who Rob Pelinka wants. It doesn't matter if he and LeBron James see eye to eye on the same coach. If Pelinka decides last minute to hire fucking whomever to hire me off of seeing this YouTube video, it doesn't matter if LeBron James doesn't want it because Pelinka still has the authority to do that. Additionally, all of the roster moves that are made are done by Rob Pelinka and management. As I already mentioned, your star player undeniably plays a role in who you sign, who you trade for, who you look into drafting. But I don't think that shitty roster composition, the criticism of that should not fall onto the player. It should fall onto the people in the front office, the folks who facilitated those moves. The players deserve to be criticized when they play badly just as much as they deserve to be praised when they play well. In much of the same vein, the front office also deserves to be shit on when they make a disastrous decision, just as they decide to be praised when they make a great decision. Trading for Anthony Davis, spectacular decision. Trading for Russell Westbrook, not a great decision. We will get into that. I do, however, want to mention roster continuity. According to Basketball References roster continuity tracker, the Lakers have had more than 60% of their minutes year over year come from returning players just once. And it was this past season with I think like 69 percent of their minutes coming from players who were on last year's roster. They are routinely in the red boxes, a group that includes my Brooklyn Nets, for example. That is not a good place to be. If there's all this roster turnover, the team is not going to be able to build any chemistry. This team is not going to look good on the court. The talent is not going to be able to mask the chemistry. The point being is that ever since winning the championship in 2020, the Lakers have failed to reconstruct a roster that followed what that roster built. Keep in mind the context of this era, not the pandemic portion of it, but where we were in the NBA at this time. This was at the height of the super team. This was when super teams were still the preeminent way to build a roster. The Lakers didn't follow that trend, however, because when your two-star players are as talented as a LeBron and an AD, you don't need to mortgage everything for a third star. You don't need to do what the Suns do and trade all of your depth and trade all of your contributing role players for Bradley Beal. It's going to fuck up everything. You're going to become one-dimensional, and you're going to get shit on by Anthony Edwards. I'm looking at this Lakers roster. This is the roster that beat Miami in the finals. LeBron James, super duper star, average. What did he average? Averaged 30, 12, and 8.5. Anthony Davis, also was superstar, averaged 25, 11 with 2 blocks. You have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, elite 3-and-D guy, despite the fact that he only shot 30% in these finals. Doesn't change the kind of player that he is. Even if he's not shooting threes, he's still going to give you something on defense. You have Rajon Rondo, a trusted veteran, a facilitator, a legitimate point guard who can settle down the offense when things get goofy. I know you have LeBron James there as well, but LeBron is not going to be on the court for the entire 48 minutes. You need someone to help corral that second unit, especially when LeBron is sitting and there is no facilitator on the floor. You have Kyle Kuzma, didn't really do much of anything in that series. I'm more so looking towards Alex Caruso, who shot 6 of 16 from 3. Markieff Morris, who was huge for them, shooting 40% from 3. Dwight Howard gave them quality minutes as well. But there is balance with this roster. Everyone I just named had a specific role, and you, the viewer, know what that role was. Dwight Howard, defensive anchor. Anthony Davis, defensive anchor plus go-to guy on offense. LeBron James and Rondo were the facilitators. LeBron James is also shot creator. And then they had all of this spacing. Unfortunately, the spacing didn't really matter because they shot 35% from 3. Not terrible, but not great. I mean, you look at some of these names like KCP is an elite shooter. Danny Green is an elite shooter who, oh man, dude, the fall off of Danny Green will be studied. That was the way. That was the way that that roster should have been continued to have been built. I will, however, give Rob Pelinka a little bit of credit for not blowing this roster up after the finals, which would have been a really fucking dumb thing to do. But understand that people in the front office do dumb shit a lot of the time. They ran it back because that's what you do when you have a team that just won you a title. Unfortunately, in 2021, they lost to the Phoenix Suns in the first round. After that, everything unraveled. KCP got traded. Kyle Kuzma got traded. Montrezl Harrell got traded. Rajon Rondo was no longer with the team. Dwight was no longer with the team, even though those guys did wind up coming back a year after. All of this because they lost to the Phoenix Suns in the first round. And I maybe the only reason they lost was because Anthony Davis was hurt. I won't take away anything from what those Suns did because they did go to the finals. But if Anthony Davis is healthy with the same exact roster, who's to say that the Lakers don't repeat? Let's also not forget that that same season, LeBron James missed a sizable chunk of the regular season, as did Anthony Davis. So another one of those wacky situations. I'm not going to blame the head coach in that instance, but a fully healthy Lakers team is probably going to the Western Conference Finals at least. The turning point for me, and I remember I did a video on this. This was, I think, one of the first YouTube videos I ever made, was when the Lakers traded for Russell Westbrook instead of DeMar DeRozan. I believe the video that I made more specifically talked about how Magic Johnson blamed LeBron for that trade, and I said, no, you can't blame LeBron for this trade because he's not the fucking GM. He's not a player GM. He's not an assistant GM. He has no connection to the front office outside of his opinion. It was Rob Pelinka who facilitated this disastrous trade for the Lakers. Not disastrous because of the caliber of player that Russell Westbrook is, but disastrous because of the type of player that Russell Westbrook is. DeMar DeRozan would have fit much better in with that Lakers team than Russell Westbrook did. It was at that point that the Lakers kind of just, Rob Pelinka in general, just lost the ability to build a team properly. Wasn't looking for a veteran backup point guard. Didn't bring in any length on the perimeter outside of Jared Vanderbilt. I will say that. But Rob Pelinka deserves to be blamed here. Darvin Ham, as poor of a signing as it was not going to succeed with this team. I don't understand the rationale of bringing in a rookie head coach to helm a roster that is as experienced and as mature as this one. It doesn't make sense to me. I think that Frank Vogel should have remained the head coach of this team. You can talk about different coaching styles, how some coaches are better able to maximize certain parts of this roster. The Darvin Ham didn't maximize any of this. This team was 15th in offensive rating, 16th in defensive rating. The only thing that they optimized was their pace. Looking to the future, I don't know what the Lakers do from this point on. I don't know who they're considering to be a head coach. I don't know if JJ Redick is actually going to become the Lakers coach. I think that would be a disaster. I don't even know whom the Lakers can bring in to try to fix this, because I don't think this is an issue that a new coach fixes. I think you need to replace Rob Pelinka. I think that when LeBron eventually does leave the Lakers, whether it be him retiring or it be with him joining the team that drafts Bronny, I think that's when Rob Pelinka is going to get the boot. I think that's the only way that the Lakers can try to rebuild this organization. Because when you have a dysfunctional organization, you can even look at someone like yourself if you work a traditional job. Obviously, it's not entirely the same, but if you have a high employee turnover rate, it's likely the fault of management. Whether management is shitty, whether they're negligent, whether they're incompetent, it's not the employee's fault. They're just trying to find the situation that works best for them. I think the same type of theory extends to sports organizations because at the end of the day, they are organizations. They are people that have a clearly defined hierarchy between employee, management, and ownership. When there's dysfunction in the ownership part, when there's dysfunction in the management part, it's going to trickle down. It's going to trickle down and impact the employees. It just might not be as noticeable because when you have a sport, the meritocracy shines through a little bit more. Like, in spite of all of this, the Lakers still managed to finish 12 games over 500 this season. Obviously, not great, but a large portion of that is them being in the Western Conference. Like, if this was happening with an Eastern Conference team, the Milwaukee Bucks, they would have been the third seed. I think the long story, long version of this is Darvin Ham deserves some blame to some degree for how the Lakers played on the court this season, but Rob Pelinka also needs to share some blame for how the Lakers even got to this point. His decisions have to be examined because his decisions have missed more than they have hit. And that plays just as much of a role in the Lakers' mediocrity as the Lakers play themselves. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video. I thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. Everything I'm associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm doing more individualized content for the postseason on TikTok, so go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you do any of those three things, you will become my new favorite person. And with that, I will catch y'all in the next one.